You are not stuck because you are not working hard enough. You are stuck because something inside you is out of tune. There is a kind of exhaustion that no one talks about, the kind that comes from trying everything. Reading the books, watching the videos, repeating affirmations, starting over again and again, and still nothing really changes. Life looks the same, money feels just out of reach. And slowly, quietly, a question begins to grow inside you. Maybe it is not meant for me. But that is not the truth. The truth is much deeper and a little uncomfortable. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are simply misaligned. And that misalignment is so subtle, most people never even realize it is there. Late at night, when everything goes quiet, that is when it hits the hardest. The overthinking, the comparing, watching others move forward while you feel like you are standing still, smiling on the outside, but inside something feels off, like you are meant for more, but cannot seem to reach it. And here is the shocking part. Most people will never escape this cycle, not because they are incapable, but because they keep trying to fix the wrong thing. They focus on action when the real power is in something they cannot see. Stay with me, because what comes next will completely change how you see money, effort, and even your own mind. There is a hidden window every single night, a moment where your guard is down, your mind is open, and your reality is being shaped without you even realizing it. And if you learn how to use that moment correctly, everything can begin to shift. Not slowly, not someday, but in ways that feel almost unreal. This is not about forcing yourself to believe something. It is not about repeating empty words. It is about entering a specific state, a vibration, that your subconscious mind accepts as truth. And once it accepts it, your world has no choice but to follow. There is a reason some people struggle for years, while others seem to step into wealth almost effortlessly. It is not luck, it is not talent, it is something far more precise, something most people overlook because it feels too simple to be powerful. Over the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly what that is. You are going to learn the real reason effort alone has not worked, and the exact feeling that can begin to shift everything in your favor, starting tonight. Because this is not just information. This is something you experience. And once you feel it, you will never see your life the same way again. Welcome to the channel. If something in you is ready for real change, not surface level motivation, then make sure you subscribe, because what you are about to discover might be the thing that finally unlocks everything you have been searching for. The night everything changed did not feel powerful. It felt like giving up. There was no motivation left, no energy to try again. Just silence and a quiet acceptance that nothing had worked, that all the effort, all the learning, all the hoping had led nowhere. And in that moment, something unexpected happened. The pressure disappeared. The need to control everything faded. It was not hope. It was surrender. And strangely, that was the first time the mind became open. Most people never realize this, but the brain enters a unique state right before sleep called the theta state. This is the same state used in deep meditation, where the subconscious becomes highly suggestible. It is the doorway where beliefs are not fought, they are accepted. And almost no one uses it intentionally. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. That night there was no plan, no complex method, just one simple idea: to feel something different before sleep. Not force it, not chase it, just gently step into a feeling that did not match current reality. It sounded too easy, almost pointless. But at that point, there was nothing to lose. And that is where something shifted. For the first time, it was not about fixing the outside world. It was about touching something internal, something subtle, something most people ignore because it cannot be seen or measured. And what happened next did not make sense at first, but it changed everything. And what I am about to share next, almost nobody talks about this. But once you understand it, you will never go to sleep the same way again. There is a small window every night that quietly decides the direction of your life. And most people sleep right through it without ever knowing. Right before you fall asleep, your mind begins to slow down. The noise fades. The overthinking softens. And without realizing it, you enter a state where your subconscious becomes more active than your conscious mind. This is not just a spiritual idea. It is backed by neuroscience. In this state, your brain produces theta waves, the same frequency linked to deep learning and belief formation. Meaning, whatever you impress on your mind in those moments is accepted with almost no resistance. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. During the day, you fight yourself. You say you are wealthy, but feel lack. You say you are confident, but feel doubt. And that inner conflict cancels everything out. But at night something changes, that resistance fades, the guard drops, and for a few quiet moments, your mind stops arguing with you. This is where hope begins, even if you cannot feel it yet, because in that space, you do not need to force belief. You only need to feel. Gently, subtly, almost like remembering something that has not happened yet. And the strange part is, your mind does not know the difference between what is real and what is vividly felt in this state. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. You were never blocked. You were never behind. You were simply trying at the wrong time. What you feel before sleep becomes your reality in ways you will only understand later. And what that feeling actually is, the exact vibration that shifts everything, is where most people get it completely wrong, and what comes next will change that forever. There is a reason affirmations have not been working for you, and it has nothing to do with the words you are saying. Most people believe money manifestation is about repetition, saying I am wealthy again and again, hoping something will click. But here's something rarely talked about. Your subconscious does not respond to words the way you think it does. It responds to emotional signals. In fact, studies in psychology show that emotion carries far more influence over belief formation than language alone. So if your words say abundance, but your feeling says lack, your mind follows the feeling every single time. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Because deep down, you already know this feeling. It is that quiet tension when you check your bank account, that subtle worry in the background, that invisible pressure to make things work. And then on top of that, you try to layer positive words. But inside, nothing changes. And that creates frustration, because it feels like you are doing everything right and still getting nowhere. This is where the shift begins. Money vibration is not something you say, it is something you become. It is the emotional frequency you live in, moment by moment, especially when no one is watching. And this is the realization that changes everything. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Once that clicks, everything starts to make sense. The patterns, the delays, the repeated cycles. But here is the part most people never figure out. What that feeling actually looks like. Because it is not excitement, and it is not forcing positivity. And what that true feeling is the difference between waiting for money and becoming the person it flows to naturally. The feeling that changed everything is not what you think, and that is exactly why most people miss it. It was not excitement, not jumping up and down, not trying to convince myself something big was coming, and it was definitely not desperation masters hope. It was something much quieter, almost easy to overlook. A calm, steady sense of relief, like the problem was already solved, like the pressure was gone, like there was nothing left to chase. And here is something surprising. Your brain is more likely to accept a belief when it feels natural, not intense. That means the louder and more forced the emotion, the more resistance it creates. But a subtle feeling, a quiet knowing, slips in without being questioned. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Because you might be trying to feel rich in a way that feels unnatural, trying to generate excitement that does not match your reality, and your mind rejects it instantly. But this feeling, it is different. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath, like checking something off your list, like knowing it is done even if you cannot see it yet. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. You do not need to feel powerful to change your life. You need to feel certain, and that certainty is quiet. It shows up as peace, as neutrality, as a soft inner voice that says it is already handled. Once you recognize that feeling, you can return to it again and again, especially at night. It becomes something you practice, not something you chase. And the moment you start doing that consistently, something begins to shift beneath the surface. And what happens over the next 21 nights is where this turns from a feeling into a completely different reality. The shift did not happen in one night. It happened because of what was repeated for 21 nights in a row. There is a reason for that number. Neuroscience suggests it takes consistent repetition to begin forming new neural pathways, especially when tied to emotion. But here is what most people miss. It is not about how long you do it. It is about how deeply you feel it when you do. This is where everything started to change. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Every night, just before sleep, When your body is relaxed and your mind is quiet, you do something very simple. You stop trying to fix your life. You stop thinking about problems. And instead, you step into that feeling, that calm certainty, that quiet relief, as if the money you desire is already handled. You do not need long affirmations. You do not need perfect visualization. Just one gentle shift from wanting to having. You let yourself feel it for a few moments, not forcing it, not questioning it, just allowing it. Like wearing a new identity for a short time before sleep takes over. Some nights it will feel easy. Some nights your mind will resist. That is normal. You are not trying to be perfect. You are just returning to the feeling again and again. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. It is not the intensity of what you feel that changes your life. It is the consistency of returning to it. And somewhere between those nights, something invisible begins to move. And what happens first is not what you expect at all. The first signs it is working are so subtle, most people completely miss them. You expect money to show up. A big change. Something obvious. But that is not how it begins. It starts internally in ways that feel almost too small to matter. Your thoughts shift. The same problems do not feel as heavy. You react differently to things that used to trigger stress, and without realizing it, you begin to carry yourself with a quiet confidence that was not there before. Here is something surprising. Your brain has a system called the reticular activating system, and its job is to filter reality based on what you believe is important. When your internal state changes, this system starts noticing opportunities that were always there, but invisible to you before. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake, because at this stage, nothing dramatic has happened yet. No big money, no breakthrough moment, and that is when doubt starts creeping in. You begin to question, is this even working? Should I stop? But this is the exact moment where everything is actually aligning beneath the surface. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. If nothing has happened yet, it does not mean it is not working. It means it is working in ways you cannot see. You might get a random idea, a new perspective, an unexpected conversation, something small but different. And these moments are not random. They are the bridge between your internal shift and your external reality. This is where patience becomes power, because the next phase is where those invisible changes begin to show themselves in ways you cannot ignore. And what happens when reality finally starts responding is something most people are not prepared for. The moment reality starts to respond, it feels almost unreal, like something quietly shifted behind the scenes. It does not always come as millions overnight. It begins in smaller, undeniable ways. Unexpected money shows up. A delayed payment suddenly clears. An idea comes to you that feels different, clearer, like it was waiting for you to notice it. And what is strange is not just what happens, but how naturally it happens. No forcing, no struggle, just movement. Here is something most people never hear. Your brain releases dopamine not only when you receive a reward, but when you expect one. And when your inner state shifts into certainty, your actions begin to align with that expectation without you even realizing it. That is why opportunities start appearing and you actually take them. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Because when it starts happening, the mind tries to explain it away. Luck, coincidence, timing. But deep down, you feel something different. A quiet recognition that this is not random. That something inside you changed first, and now the outside is catching up. This is the emotional turning point, because belief is no longer something you are trying to create. It becomes something you feel, solid, unshakable, like you crossed an invisible line and there is no going back to who you were before. This is not luck, it is alignment. And once you see this pattern clearly, you realize something even deeper, that most people stop right before this moment and never experience what comes next. And what causes them to quit, even when they are this close, is something you need to understand before it happens to you. The biggest reason this does not work for most people has nothing to do with ability. It is the moment they decide to stop. It usually happens quietly. After a few nights, maybe a week, you start checking, looking for proof, scanning your reality to see if something has changed. And when you do not see immediate results, something shifts inside you. Doubt creeps in, the feeling fades, and without realizing it, you return to the same state that kept you stuck in the first place. Here is something surprising. The brain is wired to prioritize immediate feedback over long-term transformation. It constantly asks, is this working right now? And if the answer is not obvious, it pulls you back into old patterns. Not because you are failing, but because your mind is trying to protect what feels familiar. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Because the moment you start forcing results, you break the process. You move from certainty back into lack, from knowing back into wanting. And that subtle shift is enough to slow everything down. It is not your actions that stop the manifestation. It is the return of impatience. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. The process is working most when it feels like nothing is happening. That is the test, not of effort, but of trust. And if you can stay with it, if you can hold that feeling without needing proof, something deeper begins to lock into place. Because the next shift is not about what you do anymore. It is about who you become. And that is where everything changes permanently. The real shift happens when you stop trying to manifest money and start becoming the person who already has it. At first it feels subtle, almost invisible. But then something clicks. You are no longer doing a technique at night hoping for results. You are moving through your day differently, thinking differently, responding differently. And here is something most people never realize. Your identity controls up to 95% of your daily decisions, often without you being aware of it. So when your identity changes, your life cannot stay the same. Do not skip this part, because this is where most people make the biggest mistake. Because many people stay stuck in the phase of trying to feel it, trying to believe it, trying to make something happen. But trying keeps you in the energy of not having, and that is the trap. The moment you shift into being, everything relaxes. You stop chasing, you stop forcing. You start moving with a quiet sense of control that does not need validation. Here is the truth nobody says out loud. You were never meant to chase wealth. You were meant to embody it. And when you do, decisions become clearer. Opportunities feel natural. Even challenges stop feeling like obstacles and start feeling like part of the path. This is where empowerment replaces doubt. Because now, it is not about whether it will happen. It is about continuing to live from that identity, no matter what your current reality shows. And once you reach this point, there is only one thing left that determines how far this can go. And what you do next will either lock this in permanently or slowly pull you back without you even noticing. You started this video feeling stuck, maybe tired of trying, maybe questioning if anything would ever change, and now something inside you feels different. Not because your entire life changed in a few minutes, but because you finally see what was missing. It was never about doing more. It was never about forcing belief or chasing results. It was about a quiet shift, a subtle return to a feeling you were never taught to notice. From effort to alignment. From wanting to being. From chasing money to becoming the version of you it naturally flows to. And the most powerful part is this. Nothing you need is outside of you. The same mind that created doubt can create certainty. The same nights that once felt heavy can now become the moment everything begins to change. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but starting tonight. This is your invitation, not to try harder, but to do less, to release the pressure, to stop checking, and for the next 21 nights, to simply return to that feeling, that quiet sense of relief, that calm knowing that it is already done. Because if I can do this, so can you. There is nothing special about me, no secret advantage. Just a moment of surrender and the decision to trust something deeper than what I could see at the time. And now, it is your turn. Before you go, read this one last thing carefully. This might be the most important thing in this entire video. Everything you just heard, you already knew. Deep inside. You just needed someone to remind you. So do not let this be another video you watch and forget. Let this be the moment you decide to experience it for yourself. Tonight, when everything goes quiet, when your mind begins to slow down, remember this feeling. Step into it, stay with it, and let it guide you. Because the life you want is not something you chase, it is something you allow. And if this spoke to something real inside you, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Not for me, but as a small commitment to yourself. A signal that you are ready for something different. I will see you in the next one.